This is from Bloomberg. It says a group of Amazon.com incorporated employees plan to march in Seattle's Pride Parade on Sunday. So this was an article that went out before the Pride Parade, which happened yesterday. But this gives a little bit of context to something that happened at this Pride Parade. So it says Amazon employees plan to march in Seattle's Pride Parade on Sunday to protest the online retailer's sale of books that they consider anti-transgender, an action that threatens to erode the company's image as an inclusive employer. In recent months, several hundred staffers have been pushing the e-commerce giant to ban books like Irreversible Damage, The Transgender Craze Seducing Our Daughters, which is by Abigail Schreier. And as I've said, one of the most important books of this century. If you've never read that book, you should read it. They say that such titles dehumanize trans people and dismiss their identities as mental disorders, which runs counter to the recommendations of almost every major medical group. Employees say the books could confuse vulnerable teens and their parents who turn to Amazon seeking information. And another target is Johnny the Walrus, a children's book by conservative commentator Matt Walsh about a boy who thinks he's a marine mammal. The boy's mother, caving to pressure from the internet people, quote unquote, feeds him worms and takes him to a saw-wielding doctor who suggests turning his hands and feet into fins. That is a pretty correct summation of the plot of that book. A spokesperson for the title's publisher, the Daily Wire-owned DW Books, applauded Amazon for dismissing demands by its woke employees, adding that, quote, with nearly 100,000 copies sold on Amazon alone, it's clear that there is a huge demand for Johnny the Walrus by Amazon customers, and we are thrilled with the book's massive success. So we didn't get as expected, we didn't get the apology statement from Daily Wire. I would have been pretty shocked by that. So then the Pride Parade happens and the Amazon employees show up. And I was really hoping and rooting that they'd have some signs with maybe images of Johnny the Walrus. I was hoping for like a sign with a trans walrus, circled and crossed out or something. Now we didn't get that, but here is what we did get instead at the Pride Parade. Go ahead. All right, they're just holding signs that say no hate at Amazon, which I'm fine with that message, by the way. I agree. Which is why there's nothing remotely hateful about Johnny the Walrus or about my other best-selling book, which is What is a Woman in book form, which you can buy at Amazon. And as it just so happens, we found out this weekend.
Talent 360 platform provides recruiters and sources at companies.
I'm just listening. Okay, he's not saying anything important. All right, we can turn that off. So that's it. That's all. They just marched with that banner. Huge disappointment there, but that was the disappointment. The good part is that we found out over the weekend that What is a Woman, my book What is a Woman, was officially, made it officially onto the Amazon bestseller list for the week. It made it onto Publisher's Weekly bestseller list, Wall Street Journal, and pretty much every bestseller list except for the New York Times, because the New York Times has decided that basically no Daily Wire book is allowed to make it on their list anymore. That started with Michael Knowles and his book Speechless, so really I blame him. And ever since then, no other Daily Wire book is allowed to be on the New York Times bestseller. Johnny the Walrus, we sold I don't even know what it was, 50, 60,000 copies in a week or something crazy like that, and we still didn't make it on the New York Times bestseller list. But we were on every other bestseller list for What is a Woman, including, this is pretty funny, the Seattle Times. This is the Seattle Pride March, and the Seattle Times bestseller list. We made that one also. So you can go to Amazon.com right now and pick up that book. Now, it's funny too that they lump me in with Abigail Schreier and they lump in my books with Abigail Schreier's books. But, my approach, I will admit, can sometimes be a little provocative, and I'll admit that about myself. Even though in Johnny the Walrus, we never even mention anything about trans people. I mean, it's simply a story of a boy identifying as a walrus. That's all. A lovely, fanciful tale. But in general, I'll admit that I take that approach. Abigail Schreier does not. And her book, Irreversible Damage, all it simply does is document this craze, as it says in the subtitle, overtaking adolescent girls. It takes this phenomenon, which is that over the course of just a few years, transgender identification skyrocketed to astronomical levels among adolescent girls in particular, And so Abigail Shrier is noticing that in the book and then trying to figure out why that is happening. And in fact, Shrier, and I don't want to misrepresent her view here, but she, I don't think, and certainly not in the book, but even just herself individually, she doesn't take any issue necessarily with the fundamental premise of transgenderism, like I do. I do take an issue with the fundamental premise. She does not, at least not publicly. And I don't know how she feels personally one way or another, and the book doesn't. Like, the book actually doesn't say that it's necessarily impossible for a man to be a woman. The book just doesn't give an opinion on that one way or another. All it does is talk about this phenomenon as it affects children, especially girls. And that's hate speech also. Because when it comes to the trans mafia, their message is clear. You're not allowed to talk about this. All of the, you can't even notice these problems. You cannot mention them. To notice them or mention them is hate speech. Well, I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Matt Walsh Show. If you did, be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel and click the notification button to get more content like this. If you want to watch or listen to the full show, head to dailywire.com and subscribe today. You can also listen to my podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.